Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Free Real Estate Advice Friday. This is episode number 70, and we call this one Calling All Sellers, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Hope everyone's having a good week. It's been pretty busy. You can usually tell how busy I am by what time I start this live broadcast on Fridays. Yeah, I mentioned this week in my other social medias that definitely starting to see a little bit of optimism in the clients, and I'm always kind of giving this like anecdotal assessment of the market, right? Because if you're looking at numbers in terms of what's being reported, there's a lag there, right? Because we're kind of the first line of defense. In fact, even for me, I like to ask my lenders or my attorneys how business is. The attorneys, we can ask them how their business is doing and get an idea of how many homes are going under contract or at least entering attorney review. And for the lenders, we can get an idea of like how many applications they're getting for pre-approvals. I can tell you that the feedback from my lender for the most part has been that he's got a stack of pre-approvals on his desk that he can't get rid of because they can't get a house. So when I'm talking about what we're seeing anecdotally, I'm talking about my conversations with people that are considering making a move. Obviously part of my job is calling, vast numbers of people that reach out to me, and particularly with me because I do a lot of online lead generation, so Facebook ads and Google ads, and I get a really good idea of the level of optimism that's out there. So in other words, when people reach out to me first, they're like, I'm just kind of browsing, trying to figure out the market. And then, when the market's in a different state, a lot of times those people are a little more urgent when they come in on that first pass. So what I can tell you is, going through my, lead generation activities for the week, people that have been in my system for anything ranging from 6 months to 3 years are actually starting to consider doing something. Now, that comes with the tag of the news this week that the Fed has increased the rate again, and I saw today that the interest rates on mortgages has ticked up a little bit. And it is what it is. I understand. I'm not going to get too much into financial policy here, but I understand what the Fed is trying to do, and that is curb inflation, which by most measures appears to be working. But they're going to try and curb it further. They want to get down to 2%. We're currently at about 3%, and while we're doing well, largely compared to the rest of the world, that is going to most likely affect mortgage rates. So, I always kind of remind people like mortgage rates don't necessarily go up because the Fed has increased the rate. There's obviously many more parameters there. And even though I was a finance major in college, macroeconomics was never my strong point, and I don't pretend that it was. But for the same reason, I always kind of tell people like, you can't take that one parameter that you see the news headline, they've raised rate, the Fed has raised rates again, to mean that it's definitely going to affect mortgage rates. In this case, it seems to have, but again, it's one variable out of many, so we can't say that it directly affected things. So, and here's the thing, and again, I mentioned this on TikTok this week, but we're going to continue to kind of have a stalled market here until we close that gap between what many people are holding right now in terms of their mortgage, which is like 2.5 or 3% mortgage, and what's out there now available if you're going to go start the process, which is roughly 7%. So, picture it this way. Let's say that you have a couple that's living in a condo, and they want to upgrade to their forever home, 4-bedroom, colonial, somewhere in Hunterdon County. They're living in something that they probably paid, $250 for, and they want to upgrade to something that's currently going for like $650. To get out of a 2.5 or 3% mortgage of something they purchased for $250,000 and get into something that costs $650,000 at 7% is a massive leap in terms of monthly payment. So that's going to stall things. Add on top of that the lack of inventory, and that is why we're seeing such a stalled market. So all of that being said, sellers, this is really kind of a message to you. I put in an offer earlier this week on a property in Hunterdon County, modestly priced, under 500,000, which is by far the hottest price point because the conversation we were just having, like you're talking about properties that are 650,000 with a 7% mortgage. That's a big payment. So anything under 500,000, people are still purchasing because the rates are higher, yes, but still manageable below 500,000 for people that are looking to purchase a single family home or a condo. Getting below 500,000, we just have more people that are willing to take that on. And I put in an offer on a property. In fact, I can read you some of the summaries that I got from that agent, but the property was listed in the low fours and they took 31 offers on the property. So my point being here is that because the supply is so low, the demand, despite the interest rates, is still astronomical. Now, does every property get 31 offers? Absolutely not. This was a particularly nice property, and I think it was priced, and I don't mean this in any slight towards the sellers or the agent or anything. I just think it was priced at a attractive price point because it didn't really appear to need any work. It was on a nice property, nice surroundings, nice town, and I think it just these are the listings I always say to people are still skyrocketing. So, if you're listing something that's a little problematic, needs some work, it's not going to get the offers it was getting in 2021, where everything was getting 25, 30 offers. It's still going to get competitive offers, but the nicest houses on the market are still seeing just a crazy amount of offers. So let me see if I can find that text. Give me 1 second here. Try to multitask and not have too much dead air while I'm looking for a text from earlier this week. Let's see. Okay. So to give you some idea of what we dealt with here on this particular listing, they took 65 showings on the property and they got 31 offers. The first thing that's remarkable here is that this property had 65 showings and there was no open house, 65 showings and 31 offers. That means that every other person that walked into that house made an offer on it. That is exceptional. That kind of tells you like how much of a slam dunk this property was. And again, I don't think they priced it too low. I think it just hit all the marks for so many people because it was really kind of a spotless property. And those are the properties that are still getting crazy amounts of offers. This is not necessarily indicative of every listing. Is every listing getting multiple offers? Pretty much. Not 30 though. That's exceptional. Of all the 31 offers, there were 3 cash offers, 3 FHA loans, and 25 conventional offers. So one thing to note here, 3 cash offers out of 31. 10% of the offers were cash offers. I'd say that's pretty standard. That's something to keep in mind because, if you are an FHA or conventional buyer, you don't necessarily have to think, oh my God, there's always all these cash offers. I can never beat them. That's 10% of the offers. And a lot of times your cash buyers know they're cash buyers and they tend to, I shouldn't say tend. Very often they have a mindset of, look, I know I'm a cash buyer. I'm going to try and get a little bit of a deal here. Will sellers take a little less because it's a cash offer? Yes, for the most part, but depending on the type of loan, the down payment, the lender itself, the agent who's working that deal, it's not as much of a premium as you might think. Like if you have a conventional buyer who's putting 50% down and is with a good lender and a good agent, that's almost as good as a cash offer. There's no reason, like, let's say the listing was 400,000. You wouldn't want to take like 30 grand less just because they're a cash buyer. And again, sometimes cash buyers have that mindset. Look, I know I'm a cash buyer, faster closing schedule. Maybe lenders can work pretty quick these days, especially with, not as many deals happening. It's an interesting thing there. And this is why, we're constantly kind of letting people know that there's so many variables in making an offer, and cash is great. Like when I have a new client and they tell me they're a cash buyer, fantastic. because I know I got like a great war chest to work with when we're putting in offers, but it just doesn't necessarily mean that that's like the silver bullet, especially when you're getting 31 offers. Um, the FHA loans and the conventional loans, again, like FHA, that's tough. It's not tough for any other reason than the FHA loans are generally going to be a lower down payment and more of an appraisal concern, only because they generally have to appraise for the full offer price. I haven't seen a lot of issues with appraisals on FHA loans. I mean, so first of all, one thing to always keep in mind with appraisals is they're going to ask you how many offers there were on the property. They're factoring in that market value. So just because it is going over asking, and it can be significantly over asking, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an appraisal concern there. And a lot of times, especially with inexperienced agents on the listing side, so I'm a experienced buying agent. I'm working with an inexperienced listing agent, and I put in my FHA off, and they're like, "Ooh, FHA, aren't there all kinds of issues with FHA?" And at that point, generally what I'll do is have my lender call that agent and say, let me tell you a little bit about the buyer and the process, because FHA loans aren't inherently risky or anything. Are there additional considerations? Yes, but they're generally pretty easily dealt with. So it's not like a bad loan or anything. Is it a competitive loan compared to, say, conventional or cash? Not necessarily, but it's not inherently problematic. Of the 31 offers, there were 19 offers with some form of limited inspection. That doesn't necessarily mean waived inspection. It just means that they put some parameters around the inspection, limited in some sense. So again, don't freak out by that number. People that truly just waived inspection and said, we're not doing them. I don't know what percentage of the, it's crazy. I'm doing this podcast and I have so many clients calling me right now. But of the 31 offers, the 19 limited inspections, I don't know how much they waived. I wasn't given that information from this agent. And by the way, I will point out that I truly appreciate that this agent gave us this summary. It's really good insight for people that are looking to buy right now, like what everything looks like right now. On appraisal waivers, so of the 31 offers, 11 of them waived appraisal. So roughly 30% waived appraisal to some degree. That doesn't mean an outright waiving of appraisal. It just means they gave some sort of acknowledgement to the seller that they were waiving some portion of the appraisal contingency. I think that's worth pointing out, because if you're going to be offering way above asking price, it's really a good idea to pad that with some sort of waiver appraisal. If it's my client that's buying, I'm very clear with them of what the risk is there. The risk is that it underappraises by a lot and you have to come up with a lot of extra cash. So definitely something to keep in mind, but of note, roughly 30% of the offers waived appraisal to some degree. Of the 31 offers, this is interesting too, 28 of them were over asking price. Again, I would say that's not real surprising. I think this was priced very fairly. I just think everyone loved the house. And, if you have a buying agent who knows what they're doing on any degree, and they find out that I know at the time that we submitted our offer, there were 27 offers. If there's 27 offers, your offer has to be over asking, because there's 27 offers. And, were there offers that were at asking? Well, I'm about to tell you, but I'm trying to win. I'm not trying to be in like the top 50% of offers. If there's 27 offers, you have to offer over asking without a doubt. So of the 31 offers, 28 were over asking price, 2 were at asking price, and 1 was under asking price. Now, I will say something polarizing here, is that if you go through this process, this house has 31 offers on it, and one person here missed the boat on this, and it's either the agent or the buyer, of putting in an at asking price or under asking price offer on something that's received 31 offers. So if you're an agent doing that, separate conversation, reach out to me because you probably need some coaching. I don't mean that to be insulting, but it's a lot of effort for something that is so far off the mark and really just not worth it. If you're a buyer and you're asking your agent to submit an at asking price or under asking price on something that has 31 offers, you have to keep in mind that it takes hours for agents to properly craft an offer, and it's a losing proposition. Like it's just not going to happen when there's 31 offers. If I have clients that are asking me to do this, and I do have clients that say, hey, what if we just throw an offer at it? And I'm like, look, there's 30 offers on this property. It's not as simple as just throwing an offer at it, because if you just throw offers at a property, you're not going to win anyway, because it's probably not going to be a very good offer. To write a proper offer and to craft it properly takes hours. So if I have a client that's insistent that we put in an offer anyway, I'll say, look, what I will do is I'll call the listing agent and I'll say, hey, look, our number is slightly below asking price. Is that going to be a competitive offer? I will tell you that generally the inside conversation between us two agents is, look, you know why I'm asking this. My client has asked me to put in this offer. I understand the situation. You understand the situation as the listing agent. I understand it as the buying agent. I just have to do this for my client. They've asked me, and I certainly will make a phone call. So that agent is going to tell me, Craig, I understand why you're asking. Please feel free to pass along to your client that we have 30 offers or 31 offers, and that an under asking price offer is not going to do it. And I'll do that. I mean, of course I'll do that, but it's a little bit of a professional thing, because hopefully the agent is experienced enough to understand, because we've all been in that position, and they say, yes, Craig, I understand why you're asking the question. No, that will not be a competitive offer. I'm happy to share a text with you or something you can share with your client to let them know. It's going to just, not waste everyone's time, essentially what's happening there. I'm always very honest with my clients, but, if it's a client I haven't been working with for a long time, I'm still kind of earning their trust. It's really hard to say to them, like, hey, look, this is not a competitive offer. And it's not that I'm being lazy. It's just that I'm telling you, like, it's hours of wasted effort, not only on my part, but then, throwing it onto the pile for the listing agent to have to review the offer with their seller. It's a lot of wasted effort. So, sometimes it's, we get clients that just don't get it, and that's unfortunate. So in this case, 3 of the offers of the 31, so 10% of the offers were at or under asking price, which is startling. Something went wrong there. Is it possible they were the first to the table? Yeah, I guess, but I don't know how you would have saw the house that I saw and thought, this is not going to blow up and get a million offers. Again, it's kind of goes to like knowing the market a little bit and just being in tune with things. But going through that effort on a property like this and offering under asking price or even at asking price, to me, is just a complete waste of time. And, either hire a new agent if it's the agent's fault, or even find a new client if they're not listening to you at that level, because it's going to be a bumpy road if they're like that detached from the process. So a little insight on the buying side. So today's podcast is about the sellers. So the reason I'm bringing this up is it's a unique time in real estate, because we've been in a seller's market solid 3 years. It's really not tilted back towards buyers even a little bit, and the interest rates are helping that or hurting that, however you want to look at it. The interest rates are solidifying that. And people holding on to these, low rate mortgages is also helping that. But people still need to move. That's inevitable. So no matter what's going on with the market, there's still going to be transactions. So if you're a seller right now, a couple things to consider that you may not be thinking about. So I have a couple clients right now who recently sold a house, and they sold the house because they see the market. And I think this is the way to approach the situation. And I have to give them praise for thinking that if you overlook some of the old talking points about the buying and selling process. Like, we get a lot of stuff in real estate where, like, first time home buyer is a perfect example. So you have a first time home buyer and you're going through the process, and let's say we've won a house, and we go to inspection, and one of the parents comes along with the first time buyers, right? And I'm sure you can imagine how this goes. This is a seller's market. So when we go to a home inspection, first of all, we may have already put some parameters around what we're going to be asking for. Like a good example would be that we said, just health and safety issues, or for the most part, if you're limiting inspections, like standard language in this market is health, safety, and structural. Okay, so we'll go. We're not even going to talk about weight inspections because that's a whole other conversation. But and something, by the way, I've made this very clear. I never recommend it. I never recommend that you waive inspections, but sometimes it's necessary. But let's talk about those like kind of standard parameters nowadays, which is health, safety, and structural. Okay, so that's like the bare minimum. If you're going to limit inspections in any way, that's it. But everyone is doing that, so that has kind of become the industry standard in this market. Okay, so I have parents that are coming with me to the inspection, and my clients, they're first-time home buyers. The parents are with them. The parents bought a home 30 years ago. Okay. And we see some stuff around the house. They don't like the way certain things are set up, or they had some DIY projects that are maybe a little not great, or molding is hanging off the wall, or stuff that's like really not one of those things, health, safety, or structural. And well, the sellers have to repair that. It's ridiculous, and you have to bring it back to the market. You can't talk about it in a vacuum, because let's say that we had won the bid on this house that got 31 offers. The home inspection is going to happen in like the first 10 days, right? So if we go in there hot and we're asking for everything we see, and this happens all the time, by the way, those sellers know that they have 30 other offers waiting in the wings. 30 other people that are thrilled if they get a phone call saying, hey, you know what, the buyers that end up winning the house are being a little difficult. And, we're looking to get someone in here that's just going to like stick to the deal and not get squirrely once they start doing home inspections. It's relatively easy for a seller to get out of a transaction because buyers didn't stick to the terms of the original agreement. Like, for example, if you go and let's say that you did those things that you did health, safety, and structural, and then you go and you ask for 10 items that came out of the inspection. Like, for example, dishwasher is not working, and there's a molding hanging off the wall, and you got a hole in the siding, and 7 other items that are of equal non-consequential type of things. The sellers can get that report back and say, we're not doing any of these things because this is not what we agreed to. We're not going to do a single one of these. They've put the ball back in the buyer's court. Now, the buyer at that point can be like, oops, okay, understood, never mind, we'll take the house. Or they could say, no, you got to fix all those things. The seller can just say no, and the deal is done at this point. Easy. That's not a problem. So, and then within a week of this deal being accepted, they can go back to those other 30 offers and say, all right, who's up next? Like, that happens fairly frequently. Okay. So again, framing this from a seller standpoint, if you have a home that's, you're anticipating a difficult situation, there's some deferred maintenance things. Maybe it's just not in the best condition ever. Maybe it's an estate or a house that's been vacant for a while. These are all selling. And, if it had been, 2019, we had homes that were, by all measures, in decent condition, right? Not the best in town, needed a little maintenance, needed TLC. Let's call it the homes that just need TLC, right? They need someone to come in there with a fresh outlook that, is in love with the house, maybe first time buyer, they want to make it theirs, and that's all the house needed. Those houses were sitting on the market in 2019 for 4 or 5 months, and that was just considered, due process. That was just how it worked. Nowadays, those houses are selling in days. So that's how much the market has changed. So, like a lot of the conversations I have with sellers are really around this, and that if you, sellers have like a mindset of like, all right, we're getting ready to sell our house. What do we need to do to get ready? And there's two ways to look at it. Number one is if you have some money in the bank and you're looking to just maximize what you can get for this property, like you want to make a small investment in the house now to fix up some things that have kind of been lingering, some maintenance issues or some aesthetic issues, so that when it hits the market, it's fireworks and you get the 20 offers and it's properly staged and the offers are higher. Great time to make that investment in like staging and properly getting the house ready for the market. However, if you're in the other school of thought, let's say that it's an estate and the house has been vacant for 5 years. It's you and some siblings, and no one really has, 5 to 10 grand to throw into the listing. You don't need to. Like this market, you do not have to do that. That is not a prerequisite anymore. 2019, that may have been a prerequisite. And a lot of times I was recommending it to those types of listings, and most of the time they were passing on it, and then the house sat for 4 or 5 months on the market. In this market, it's a choice. You can do it and you will benefit from it. I'm here to tell you that if you put 5 to 10 grand in staging and preparing a house to be listed properly, and then putting proper marketing behind it and video and photo and all the things that we do as listing agents, you will get paid on that. It's impossible to guarantee, right? Because we can't A/B it. We can't know what would have happened if we hadn't done those things, and we can't know what would have happened if we do those things. But what we can tell you based on our experience is the knowledge that we have of seeing those types of listings all the time and the choices that those listings make. And I can tell you that those listings that make the choices to properly stage and prepare it for, to be properly marketed are exploding. I just gave you an example of one that took 31 offers. But if you can't do those things because you don't have 10 grand in the bank, those houses are selling immediately. I just sold a listing further in South Jersey. It's been vacant for many years. The family pretty much took care of the house. There was no major issues that we knew of. There were some things, deferred maintenance type of things, small issues that happen when a house is vacant for 5 years. Obviously, the entire house is dated. And that house on the market in 2019 would have been on the market for maybe a year. It would absolutely have been on the market for a year. I held an open house for that house. We had 75 groups come through. So probably at least 100 people, because most groups are more than one person. And it sold immediately. We had showings for 2 additional days because they had been scheduled before we did the open house. So we honor those showings that booked right away. And I believe we ended up with 14 offers after 3 days. That's a house that I'm telling you right now would have been on the market for almost a year without me being surprised by it. So these are the types of homes that, like, if you're overthinking the process of selling right now, I would reconsider that and have a conversation with a good realtor. I would love if it's me. If it's not me, a good realtor who knows what they're doing. In addition to that, people are making decisions that, again, the conversation has changed based on the market and the conversation around renting, right? So let's say that you have a house that you know is going to do well. I have a good example of this. I just sold a condo, again, further down South Jersey. Condo was okay. I mean, in terms of aesthetics from the outside and the condo complex itself, I would say it was okay. Inside was very well kept, so it showed very, very well. Especially, you weren't necessarily expecting that as you walked up to the front door, but when you opened the front door and walked into the house, beautifully done. So the people that own that house, it essentially covered their living needs, but like they do want something more. So they made a decision, which I praise them for, because I think it was very smart to go ahead and sell the house and rent something that was more along the lines of what they're eventually going to buy, which is a single family home. So they sold the condo. They made an excellent profit on it. I mean, even though we were expecting a good performance based on the current market, it far surpassed even that. In that particular one, I believe we had around 85 groups through the open house, and probably 40 to 50 showings. Again, I have all this information. I don't have it at my fingertips at the moment, but I think a total of 40 to 50 showings in addition to the 85 people or so that came through the open house. They got an offer way above what any of us thought, record-setting offer within that complex. They banked that money. They're now renting. Now, all these years that people said, you can't rent, you're paying someone else's mortgage, that's true. But if you're renting for strategic reasons like these folks are, you sell your condo, you bank the money, you make the strategic decision to rent for 1 year so that you can now go out and shop without a home sale contingency for a short, defined set of time. That's power. Like that's power, because previously those people would have been buying on a home sale contingency, which I just told you about 31 offers on a property. Where do you think that home sale contingency goes in that pile of 31 offers? It goes directly to the bottom. It's again, it's not inherently risky to do that, but compared to non-home sale contingency offers, it's impossible. I mean, you have 31 offers. Like, why would you take an offer, no matter how attractive, if you have to go along with them while they sell their own house? You have to ride out that contingency with them when you have 30 offers that you don't have to do that with. And if you have 30 offers, like, they're going to top out. Like, it's not like the home sale contingency one offered you an extra $100,000. They can't. There's no way. I shouldn't say there's no way, but it's very unlikely that's the case. And in fact, I've never seen it in my entire career. That offer would normally be competitive, but because of the home sale contingency, immediately eliminated, right? It's immediately at the bottom of the pile. So those challenging listings, if you're thinking about doing something, they're doing better. Thinking about renting in the short term to get out of a home sale contingency, cashing out on the current seller's market, renting for a short period of time, and then getting back into the game at your leisure. No rush, no pressure at that point. Because even if you're buying on a home sale contingency right now, it's a lot of pressure because you have to sell your home in a short period of time. Because I know, even if you can get an offer accepted with a home sale contingency, which is extremely hard. I just realized I haven't been using my mic this whole time, and that's going to irritate me later. So sorry for the sound quality on that. But even if you can get a home sale contingency offer accepted, you have to actually sell your home. Like, so if your home runs into challenges, you're going to lose the fact that you had an accepted offer, right? So the sellers of the home you're trying to buy, when it turns out that you have a failed septic system on the home you're selling, and the people that are selling the home you're buying say, oh, well, we can't wait for you to fix your septic. We're trying to get out of our house. And, we took your offer thinking that your house was going to sell very fast and close in 30 days and be super easy. But now you got a failed septic. It's going to be months before you can close, yada, yada, yada. Guess what? They're out. So, getting out of that strategically right now may be the right move. And I'm not taught, this is not financial advice, right? This is life advice. It's like, if you're trying to do something and what you're doing is waiting out the market, waiting for interest rates to go down or waiting for prices to go down. I hear that all the time. We're waiting for prices to go down. And I always say, like, I don't know that prices are ever going to go down. And if they are, it's not something that, like, you'll notice. Like the homes that are going for $650 right now, your standard 4-bedroom colonial in Hunterdon County, they're not going to, like, suddenly be going for $550 anytime soon. Like, listen, if we have another, like, real estate crash in several years, maybe, but I don't know. That's a big leap, and I just don't see it happening. And depending on how long you might be waiting, it's not a good reason to wait. Like, I always think about things in, like, 5-year increments. Like, if you're starting a family and you've got kids, like, you're going to wait out interest rates, like, while your kids are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, then they're going to be like, teenagers. And you're like, well, I mean, how much longer are we even going to be in this house? If you waited all that time to get into the ideal house for your family, it probably wasn't, like, a good strategic decision. Will that cost you? Like, is that the ultimate financial right decision? Definitely not. But, I think, like, me personally, my like personal belief is that, housing and, finding what's best for the family is somewhere where you take some financial, um I don't know how to phrase it, financial hits because you want something better. I always tell the personal story of my house. When we purchased my house, it was just me and my wife. We didn't have any kids. It was a little above. It was about 10% more than we were looking to spend. We were looking at 450, and the house was 500,000. This was 8 years ago when you could actually get a decent house for those prices. Um, and we said it was a calculated decision. It wasn't a good financial decision necessarily because we were borrowing more than we said we were going to. Our monthly payment was going to be higher than we said it was going to. Our down payment was going to be slightly higher than we said. But we are there 8 years later. We knew we'd be house poor for like 3 years. That's what we calculated. We're fastidious budgeters, and we knew that, all right, well, it's going to be pretty thin here for the first 3 years. And what did that look like for us? Like, well, we couldn't get all our lighting fixtures right away because we knew we were going to be a little bit house poor. We had no wall art for like 3 years. So, like, it was like a small decision of like, all right, things are going to be lean for a little while. But at the end of the day, this is the best house on the market for us. And we're going to be here for a very long time. And I still, to this day, 8 years later, with 2 kids in the house now, I still think it's our forever house. And I see houses all the time. So at the time, making a decision that was perhaps financially risky, or a little bit of a leap of faith for us. I don't want to say impulsive because we had actually had our eye on the market for like a year or two. And by the way, this is all before I was a real estate agent. So we kind of knew the market at that point, and we thought within the market at that time, which was a buyer's market, that we had, it was a decent value for us. And what's very funny is the house was listed for $499,900. Okay, $499,900, and we got into a rare multi-offer situation in that house. And there was one other couple, and I believe we saw that other couple when we were at the open house because there were two couples that were lingering, us and one other couple, and we won the bid on that house, and our offer was $500,000, so $100 over asking, which is so crazy to think about, but that is how different the market was 8 years ago. So, like, at that point, like, today it's like, 50 grand over asking is like a celebration for the sellers for sure, but not shocking, right? Back then, $100 over asking price was like a victory, right? We got asking price, or $100 more than asking price. That was like a big deal. Not anymore. But anyway, my whole point in this is that, sellers have all the cards these days. So, like, if you're thinking about making a move in real estate, it may be dictated by selling as opposed to buying. And I see so many people waiting to make a move because they were so much more concerned about the buy side. Valid concern, and definitely requires conversations, and everyone's case is different in terms of buying power. And, like, if you're going to be a strong buyer, like if you're going to sell your house and then be a cash buyer, I'd say don't wait, because now you don't have to worry about interest rates, and you're going to be up against people that are paying 7%. So you're very competitive. When people were paying 2.5%, cash buyers and 2.5% mortgages were kind of neck and neck, right? But now, if you're buying something that's over 500,000, there's not that many buyers over 500,000 because of the 7% mortgages. So, you have to just think about the market and the advice that's been given over the years for this market, and the situation that we're currently in is very different. So it requires different strategies and different mindsets. So the moral of all of this, and again, whether it's me or another agent, is this all requires like a lot of strategy. And I think what a lot of people are struggling with these days, and rightfully so, this market is crazy. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I don't like it myself as a professional. I am tied to it as a professional. And, in terms of income and feeding my family, I'm tied to this market. So I don't like it, but it is what it is. And I think anyone that's trying to do anything, it just requires a lot of conversations. So when I have these sellers that are calling me and saying, I have an estate that I need to sell, it's been sitting vacant for 5 years, I'm like, man, good timing on your part, because that house is going to sell immediately. And like I said, 4 years ago, and probably 4 years from now, that house would take a year to sell without question. But now it's going to sell in a few days. So, should I invest in home staging? Do you have 10 grand to invest and get, a 300% return on in a week? Sure. I think it's a fantastic way to do that. I can't guarantee it, but I can tell you from experience, yeah, you're going to do really well. So it just requires a lot of strategic discussing. If you don't have an agent that's giving you a consultation on these types of conversations, then let me know and I will get you in touch with someone. Again, if it's not me or you're in another state, then, let me know and I'll get you with someone that, I am confident in. Make sure you're having these conversations on both the buying and selling side. There's just so much to be discussed these days. I've talked about in past weeks that this is truly a skills-based marketplace, right? So what that means is navigating this marketplace requires skill. It's not for everyone. And that's why we're losing an incredible amount of realtors that are just checking out of the industry. Because it's a lot to navigate, and there's a lot of very strategic and hands-on discussions that need to happen in order to navigate it. So if you don't have someone that's helping you have those discussions, the only thing I would tell you is do not listen to big talking points on the news, because again, there's lag in that data. So it's, the stuff that gets reported on the news is typically going to be at least 30 days old, in terms of real estate data. It doesn't always apply to localities. So if you hear something on whatever you watch, Fox News, CNN, whatever it is, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, whatever you're hearing, does not necessarily apply to Hunterdon County, New Jersey. It's either part of a larger trend, or they're talking about particularly hot markets. Like we'll see stuff all the time about, people not getting homes at 100 grand over asking. First question is, what else was in that offer? 100 grand over asking sounds good, but could they actually pull it off? And did someone realize that they maybe couldn't pull it off? But also, are they talking about one of the hottest markets in the country, or are they talking about here in Hunterdon County? Those conversations vary. I mean, even if you compare Warren County to Hunterdon County to Somerset County to Middlesex County to Union County to Monmouth County to Ocean County, they're all different. They're all different situations. So, you can't take a talking point that you hear on social media or the news or wherever you get your information and say, oh, well, then we definitely shouldn't do what we were thinking about doing, because it won't work. It doesn't work that way. Hyper local information is what you need if you're actually thinking about making a move in real estate. So, get in touch with the right people that can provide that information to you, and take your situation in particular and discuss it with you, what the expectations should be and what the likely outcomes are. So that's my message this week. And I think that was probably long-winded, and it makes me crazy that my microphone wasn't down for half of it. I know you could still hear me. It makes me crazy as an audio guy that it probably just didn't sound very good. So anyway, thanks for tuning in again. Once again, thank you so much for all the new subscriptions that I've gained over the past few months. Means a lot to me, and hopefully I'm putting out content that is somewhat useful to people. And I hope everyone's doing well out there. It's been extremely hot lately, and but it's summertime, which is my favorite time of year. So I hope you're all enjoying your vacations and time off and time with family and everything else. Hope everyone's happy and healthy. And if you ever need anything, or you would like to hear about something in a future podcast, please just hit me up in the comments or reach out to me. My cell phone number is right here, and that is my personal cell phone number. So happy to help any way I can. And take care. We'll talk to you next week.